What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Pat Outdoors. Today we're going to be working on my 72 volt MX650. It's been a little while since I touched this thing because I've been a little distracted with my new Talaria and my other projects, but this is still my favorite bike. There's just something about going 50 miles an hour on a little pocket bike that is more exciting than riding the bigger bikes. But one issue I have with having such a short wheelbase and 72 volt powertrain is the front end comes up very easily. It's very easy to loop this thing if you try to accelerate hard from a stop. So today I'm going to be installing a swing arm extension kit by Electro & Co., which is supposed to help stabilize the bike under acceleration at low speeds. So let's get started. Here's everything that we're going to be using for today's project, starting with the electric impact, which I'm actually using as a drill with a 5/16 inch drill bit, WD-40 to lubricate what we're drilling, Allen socket set, 19mm socket for the nuts on the rear axle, the stock one. I have an extension on here because I currently have pegs installed on the back of my MX650, but I'm probably going to take those off since I don't think they're actually going to work with the swing arm extension. 3/8 ratchet, 14, 13, and 10mm wrenches. This is for the swing arm kit install. 8mm wrench to take off the factory chain tensioner. We're no longer going to need that with the new setup. And I got a chain detacher here since we are making a new chain. The factory chain is not long enough. We're extending the swing arm 3 inches, so we need to make the chain longer. If you are interested in checking out any of the items that I'm using for today's project, I will have everything linked in the description below. Let's go unbox this package from Electro & Co. So Electro & Co. sent me this second package like 4 days after I got this other box, so I'm sure it's related. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like they may have had a design flaw on the earlier swing arm kits, and then they sent me an updated version of the axle nut. Nice. Man, everything looks so fancy how it's machined. This is the caliper bracket. Check out the machining on all these parts. It definitely feels like a high quality item. So here's everything that came in the package from Electro & Co. Left and right swing arm extensions, caliper bracket, which has a built-in wheel spacer, what it looks like, a new axle, the blocks for the axle to ride on, and all the hardware to mount this on the swing arm. So the only thing that we're going to be using from the stock rear axle is one of the spacers, the one on the right side, and then the flange on the inside of the caliper bracket is what's going to act as a spacer on the left side. Now I'm going to work on removing the chain and original tensioner setup. Next thing we're going to be doing is installing the swing arm extensions. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's only one way to install it. There is a indentation on the backside of the extension, which goes in the slot where the rear axle went before. Then we're going to secure the extension in place with the bolt and washers provided. That's the order it's supposed to be in. And then we're going to screw that in the backside. Once we have it fully secured, that's going to give us an idea of where to drill the holes through the swing arm. Just to give you a heads up, it is not going to seat perfectly. I don't think that that's a machining issue. I think that is more the factory welds on the swing arm are just not the same on every other razor. I noticed this after refinishing a couple of these. The welds always look a little different, so forgive Electro & Co. for the tolerances not being perfect on your specific bike. And to secure the swing arm, you're just using a 5mm Allen socket. We're not going to go overboard and torquing that. Just position it. Now we're going to use the 5/16 inch drill bit to drill some holes through the swing arm, and then we'll install the hardware through it to pinch it in place. It definitely takes quite a bit of patience to get through the swing arm with an electric drill. Now we're going to install the other hardware that secures the extensions on the swing arm. That is these two long black bolts. Slip them through. Then you can tighten the head side with a 5mm Allen. And then on the back side, we're going to install the large washers with the nuts to secure it. The nuts with the nylock on the inside. I believe these are 13mm. And that is it for one side. Now let's go drill out the other side. Now we're gonna remove the rear brake caliper. This is the Zoom mountain bike brake setup that I'm using for the back. And then we're gonna install the blocks that hold the new axle in place. The one with the nut goes on the right side. This is essentially what's gonna act as the new chain tensioner. It slides back to tighten, moves forward to loosen the chain tension. This replaces the spring-loaded tensioner that was originally on the inside of the swing arm. It's gonna work just like traditional dirt bikes where you loosen the jam nut and unscrew the bolt to push the wheel back to tighten the chain tension, or screw the bolt back into the swing arm and push the wheel forward to loosen it, and then you lock the jam nut in place. Also works the same way as my Talaria XXX. Install the hardware first, which is the shorter black bolt with the nuts that don't have the nylock in it. When we go in to install the rear axle, make sure that you have the washer on the left block before you insert the axle. So the new caliper bracket is going to slide back and forth with the rear axle blocks as you're adjusting the chain tension. So the bolt and nut that you're going to install on the caliper bracket is going to be the last thing that you torque down. The head of the bolt goes from the back side out, and then we're going to install 10mm nut on the outside, the one that has the nylock on it. Like I said, we are not going to torque this one down. I'm going to tighten it until it's relatively flat, just like that. Install the washer, and then I'm just gonna slip the bolt in the axle just like that. And I'm gonna leave it this way while I put the wheel on. Again, we're gonna be reusing the original spacer on the right side. You're going to notice that the swing arm extensions are a little bit bowed out, but that's okay. It's going to come back in once you tighten the rear axle. Just a 14mm ratchet. And just like the caliper bracket, we're not going to torque this one all the way. We want to be able to slide the wheel forward and back until we get the chain tension corrected. I also need to still make a chain, so I'm gonna have this just relatively tight, but be able to slide it back and forth. Now that I've broken down the chain to the correct length, I'm gonna connect these links with a master link. And that is how it looks. You might notice that the chain is very loose. This is exactly how I want it to start off. And then we're gonna back out the bolts on both sides, push the blocks out, which will tighten the chain tension, and then we'll lock it in place with the jam nut. It definitely takes quite a bit of trial and error to get the chain tension adjustment correct and positioning the wheel so it's pointed perfectly straight. It just takes a little bit of time. One tip I have is to definitely get the lowest profile 10mm wrench you can get your hands on, because there is very little space to make adjustments over here. So the lower profile the head of your 10mm, the better. But this is how I have it adjusted. It's just minimal slack, so there's not too much tension on the chain. It's not gonna fall off. And axle's fully torqued down. Two spots that can potentially have some clearance issues though is the head of the bolt on the very back on the right side. It comes very close to the cover on the stock rear sprocket. Mine's not rubbing, but depending on your adjustment, it might. This is not gonna be an issue if you have a T8F sprocket upgrade, since there's no plastic cover back here. The other spot that comes kind of close is the stud for the original chain tension. If you have a larger front sprocket and maybe the T8F chain that's a little bit bigger than this, it could potentially rub, so you might want to cut that if you have that. So just keep an eye on those two items when you are setting up your bike. The only thing we got left now is to reinstall the rear brake caliper. That is quite a bit of distance away from the caliper bracket. I'm surprised it didn't provide any spacers for in between the caliper and the bracket, because it's definitely gonna have to go in at least 1/8 of an inch. All right, to have the caliper positioned correctly, I ended up having to put an extra washer on the bottom one versus the top bracket, but everything lined up perfectly. Rotor has even clearance on both sides of the pads. So we are all done. The last step is to fully secure the caliper bracket by holding down the top bolt with a 5mm Allen on the back side and lock the nut in place with a 10mm wrench, and we are fully done with this project. All right guys, if you are interested in checking out Electro & Co.'s Swing Arm Extension Kit for the Razor MX650, MX500, or SX500, I will have it linked below. You can also get 10% off by using the discount code that I have in the description. If you found today's video helpful in any way or you enjoyed it, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you like this kind of content, want to keep up with some of my bike projects or potentially my new house, consider subscribing to this channel. But this is going to be it for today. See you in the next one.